Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today we're going to be talking about two relationships that have been torn apart in the 2025 year. That is Real Housewives of Atlanta royalty, Kandi and her husband Todd Tucker. We will also be discussing Yandy and Mendeecees from the Love and Hip Hop franchise. Now, Kandi and Todd were together, married rather, for 11 years, and that in itself is an accomplishment, I think, for long-term couples, relationships, period, as well as marriages. And Yandy and her husband were together for quite some time as well. However, he was locked up for 8 years of their, I think, almost 20-year relationship. He was in prison. And there are some similarities here between Yandy and Kandi. Kandi and Yandy, Yandy and Kandi, rhymes, right? Now, Kandi and Yandy are both two entrepreneurial, ambitious, goal-seeking, and executing women. They both had their own businesses, their own, substantial amount of income, and their counterparts were, I would say we're doing okay, right? Like Todd Tucker was a producer, worked on the Real Housewives, worked in television, had a 6-figure salary. Now, whenever people say 6-figure salary, that could be low end, like $100,000 a year. That could be all the way up to $900,000 a year, right? Those are both 6 figures. So we never knew quite what Todd was making for the Real Housewives. And then as we understand, Mendeecees, which was Yandy's common law husband, as we're finding out, they were never legally married, just together, and had like televised ceremonies, but were never officially legally married. But he, as I understand, was a bit of a kind of a street guy, made his money through, let's just say, allegedly, I guess, street pharmaceutical type deals, if you know what that means. Not necessarily legitimate, but nonetheless, Yandy had more money than her common law husband, and Kandi, for darn sure, had more money than her husband, Todd Tucker. Now, a lot of people are celebrating Kandi and Todd divorce. What am I going to say celebrating? That's such a strong word. A lot of people were somewhat expected of it. That because of their, I'm not going to say open marriage, but there were alleged, extra sexual partners inside their marriage that was consensual. And so people were saying, anytime you bring someone else in your bedroom, it's not going to work. And I don't have any experience with that, I'll be honest with you. But I'm just going to go out on a limb and say I don't think it would work either. I think the lines will get crossed. There will, feelings, and, it's bad for business. Now, with Kandi and Todd, I honestly thought that they would go a longer distance, specifically because I do believe that Kandi loved Todd. I do think that Todd loved Kandi, and I think that the love itself was balanced, but the relationship was not balanced. I think that there were some insecurities on Todd's part, and there were definitely some control issues on Kandi's part. You got to think about it. Kandi is a boss, right? She, after she had her departure from the R&B group, the 90s R&B group Escape, she really had to grind it out to not become I was in a group once, She really had to grind it out in order to make a success out of her life, because she could have very well like a lot of, celebrities, whether it's in music or television or what have you, have a one hit or have a great show, and then they go off into obscurity and we never hear from them again. That was not going to be Kandi's story. Kandi knew that all I need to do was work and pivot and find something else out and move forward. And that's exactly what she did. She went from being a R&B singer who, was, again, I think the official story was the group just kind of just dismantled rather, because the other two lead singers were supposed to be the stars, and Kandi was just like, blah, blah, blah. She's sings okay, but, we can do it without her. But the victor goes to the person that works the hardest, right? So Kandi began writing for other artists, such as Destiny's Child. She's in the ASCAP Hall of Fame, which is like Writers Hall of Fame for those who write music. Her career really skyrocketed when she joined the Real Housewives of Atlanta, even though she wasn't a wife. She joined the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and she took that platform. And I did a video on this I did a small snippet on Kandi's success in a previous video, but she really took that platform and did what you're supposed to do. When you get an opportunity, you squeeze the hell out of it. Whatever that opportunity is, if you get an opportunity, you think of ways that you can make more opportunities from this particular opportunity, whatever it is, right? And that's exactly what she did. So Kandi went into Kandi Coded Night. She had a small podcast. She did a SCX toy line. She did, and I almost think that's still going. I just can't recall. She started, what else did she do? Acting, plays. I mean, her and her team just, drove the ball forward. She met Todd on the show. They get married. And Kandi just didn't stop. She didn't slow down and she didn't stop, because it's like, not that she was ever broke. She was always financially responsible, right? But again, once you get an opportunity, especially where you're making whatever it is that she was making with the Real Housewives and the exposure at that time on Bravo, you could do whatever you can to make multiple businesses for yourself, so you can have residual income. So that you're not having to go to all these particular jobs, that your money is making money. Your businesses are making money for you. And that's exactly what she did. Now, when I say she had control issues, I think some of the not letting up on the jobs, I think, and I know the drive probably comes from, I'm never going to, just seizing the opportunity. Well, I can't say that I specifically know, but from the outside looking in, it's like, I have this great opportunity. I'm going to get everything that I can out of it. I'm working this hard because I'm a hard worker and I like seeing the money grow, And yes, her family, she had one child through, oh wait, let me take that back. I think both of Kandi's children with Todd's were with surrogates, I want to say. Because then she was having an issue with fibroids, which so many Black women do. I had that same issue, and probably still have. I just haven't tended to it. I did have a surgery years back for fibroid removal, but she went through some issues there, and I want to say both of her children are from surrogacy. I'll have to double check on that, but that's neither here nor there. She just kept grinding, and her and Todd had he was, coming along, trying to create businesses for himself with the Blaze restaurant, which is named after their son. The Old Lady Gang, which is Kandi's aunt's. I'm not sure if that was a joint venture that they did together, her and Todd, or it was just Kandi's, and he kind of was just like the, marketing promo guy behind. I'm not sure what his position was on paper, but obviously Kandi being the notable star, she just had more opportunities. I'm not saying that Todd didn't seize any opportunity that he did or did not have. I'm just saying that Kandi was the more notable star, and she just, whatever was on her plate, she ate it. She ate it up. Now with Yandy and Mendeecees, I'll be honest with you. I don't have all of the information on Yandy and Mendeecees, specifically because I never cared to watch the Love and Hip Hop show. For me, all of just from what I've seen, like on clips, and it's probably just a sell show, right? But it just seemed very negative. And yeah, the Real Housewives, they argue, they dig, they, kind of go lowbrow sometimes. But from what I gathered on the Love and Hip Hop, it was just way too gutter for me. I'm going to be real with you. It was just like, oh no. It's way too gutter, way too harsh, way too, physical altercations all of the time. I just never really gave it a chance. But as I understand, Yandy is a boss in her own right. So why the relationship failures, right? One, relationships are difficult. Relationships are difficult because it is the joining together of two people who have two, ideologies, two self-ideologies, philosophies about life and the way to go about it. And there is a scripture in the Bible, I'm just going to paraphrase it. It's something on the lines of, how can two people go together lest they agree? Something like that. I'm just paraphrasing, right? But basically, how can we go together if I say turn left and you're saying turn right? How are we going to go together in that way? You can't. You do have to agree. And from Mendeecees' perspective, he did an interview that kind of blew up the internet over the last several days, letting the world know that he and Yandy were never legally married. They had the two televised ceremonies, on television, two specials, but there were never any legal document signed. So he said they never could get on the same page. Now, we don't know what that's in reference to. He didn't specify what he meant specifically, like if it was a business venture, if it was, sometimes intimate things that's going on, like we're just not agreeing, we're just arguing all the time, or, we're having, differences in terms of how we want to raise our children, whatever the case may be. He said they just couldn't get on the same page. And that does happen. That just happened a lot. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate. When you have two self-made women that had the success without you, know how to run their businesses and, generate income, especially, income at that level, I'm talking millions, 7 figures without you, sometimes it can be a bit of a task to get that woman to maybe get on your page, or to, I'm not going to say listen to you like you're, their father or something, but it's kind of like when you know what you're doing and you know that you know what you're doing, it can be kind of difficult to listen to somebody else sometimes, if they haven't shown that same productivity, if you will. For example, if I've never opened up a restaurant, and here's someone who has opened up 3 and getting ready to open up their 4th, and then I want to chime in and put in my, 2 cents of what I think you should do with your 4th restaurant, they may entertain me, but it would probably be difficult for them to listen to me, because it's like, where's your 1 restaurant and I'm on number 4, And again, I'm not saying that there are, issues where business, but there are issues there. Now, is it difficult for a successful woman to stay in a marriage? I think it's difficult for any person, period, to stay in a marriage if divorce is the option. Now, with Kandi and Todd, there were rumors that Todd started having, I guess, some of their, I guess you would call them liaisons. What do you call the third person? Or, the third people? I have no idea. But there were rumors that he started having relations, if you will, physical relations with other parties without Kandi, which would we would call cheating, right? We would call that cheating. We would call it extramarital affairs. Now, these are just rumors. Kandi hasn't spoke on that. Todd hasn't spoken on it either, so we don't know. But, it's always like sources say, whoever the sources are. And that could have been an issue. But again, if you, ladies, let me speak specifically to the ladies because I'm a woman. Bringing another woman into your bedroom, regardless of if you're there or what the interaction is not a good idea, boo. It is not a good idea, period. Your man, and I don't know if women do that now because there's this bisexual thing that's going on where everybody wants to sleep with everybody, or if they're doing it to, well, he's going to cheat anyway, so I may as well just kind of, make it acceptable, or, oh, we just freaky, we're taking it to the next level. It's not a good idea. Men, much like, I hate to say this because it's going to sound derogatory, but men, much like children, much like employees, much like your dog Fido, need boundaries. Everyone needs boundaries. Everyone. As much as we want to be free, idealistically free, and, oh, there's no boundaries, and, you need boundaries. You need some sort of perimeter rather, of what you can and can't do. And in relationships, I have just never seen a healthy, loving, real love relationship where other parties were involved. Now, I have seen relationships or heard of relationships of, so-called rich and famous, where perhaps the lady knows she's married, for money, married to money, and married about the money, and allows her husband to do have whatever escapade he wants to have, and she's quiet, kept, and comfortable. There's no love there, at least not on her part. But she's playing a part. I know I need to be a good wife and let him do whatever he does. Maybe we have sex once a year, and he does whatever he wants to do with whomever he wants to do it with. I don't care. I live in this 15,000 square foot mansion with 3 guest houses and, blah, blah, blah. But that very seldom works when the roles are reversed. And when I say roles are reversed, I mean the traditional roles. So it very seldom works for a woman to be in that position, and even letting the guy do whatever he wants to do, even bringing women in, it's still a control thing. Men, relationships have to have boundaries. And the majority of the time, a man is not going to want to share his woman, even with another woman, even though every guy is like, oh, I want a threesome. Oh, that would be so hot. At the end of the day, the majority of men don't want to share what's theirs. And at the end of the day, the majority of women don't want to share what's theirs either. And sure, it may sound like a good idea because we're in this progressive society where, hey, love is love, and do what you want to do and do who you want to do, as long as you come home to me, or, as long as I know about it, or as Evelyn Lozado told Ocho Cinco, as long as you wear a condom, I'm totally fine. But then she finds the condom and she's like, oh my God, you're cheating on me. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying about what it is that you truly want. And there's another YouTuber on YouTube, obviously. And I think her handle, or whatever you want to call it, her name is @Chloe or something like that. And she speaks about femininity and hypergamy and things like that. And just about women, not marrying beneath their economic tax bracket. And this kind of would lend to that, right? You have two successful Black women that are making, upwards of 7 to 8 figures, well, at least Kandi probably definitely making at least up to 8 figures. bringing in money. And when I'm not saying, I'm not talking about net worth. I'm talking about bringing in this amount of money, probably yearly, through multiple business ventures, making this amount of money, and then bearing beneath their tax bracket and having kind of these similar issues. Now, Kandi did state, and this was before her and Todd got married. Her mom, obviously was very upset about it. Go back and watch Real Housewives, whatever season that was. And Kandi was saying to her mom that she's been with men that make more than her, but they treat you like crap because they know it's pretty much the next woman, being churned out. They ain't gonna just go talk to her. So either you're gonna deal with me as I am and accept it, or I'll just go get the next chick. Because at this point, women are disposable to me because I make so much money that women constantly throw themselves. I'm never gonna be in a drought. I'm never gonna be without, right? So they treat you just like that. They just discard you. So was she dating Todd because she felt comfortable? Like maybe he'll love and or value me more because he has less and I have more? I don't know if that was the reasoning, but quite possibly. That's where I'm going to leave that. I'll probably do another video on this just because it's so much to digest and to dissect. But let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.